A lot of times I get really passionate about the things that I want to fix in myself. Like if you see me getting really passionate, it's usually like I'm screwing that thing up and I'm trying to teach myself as much as I'm trying to teach you. But this time I'm going to talk about something that I actually really love and a lot of people don't. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to get better with change. Change is my favorite thing in the world. If something doesn't change, I get super bored. My ADHD drives me to change everything all the time. In fact, this company, it's not normal for somebody with ADHD to stay at a company 23 years, but I keep changing it and it keeps getting more fun. And then I get to ride this great train that like does all kinds of cool things. But a lot of people don't love change. I've learned a ton over my years and I want to share some of those things with you. So first of all, how important is change? I mean, vital, right? If you don't change, you die. If you look at Netflix, and what they did to Blockbuster Video, most of us watching this probably grew up rewinding tapes before we brought them back, right? Like we were Blockbuster freaks, Hollywood Video, like these were our spots. And Netflix comes along and is like, hey, we're going to do this whole digital thing. And Blockbuster has a chance to move over and start doing digital, but they didn't. In fact, by the time they even thought about it, it was too late. Netflix had already done it. Now look at Netflix. I mean, I'm paying like what, $90 a month or something. It's not that bad, but like they took that market and then just ran with it. The other one, and this one blows my mind, it's Barnes & Noble versus Amazon. There's a really great podcast you guys should check out besides this one, which is called Business Wars. And they basically take two companies that went against each other and they document which one won and how they did things differently. And for the most part, most businesses that changed made the difference and got to keep growing. The ultimate slap in the face for Barnes & Noble is that Amazon took the digital books away from Barnes & Noble. They took that whole market. Like they created that side of the business. And then when they harmed Barnes & Noble and Barnes & Noble shut down a bunch of stores, Amazon is now in the mall having a regular bookstore, which is just, that's dirty. But Amazon's doing it because they can, right? Because they were okay making the change really quickly and they bet that the clients would actually go along with them. And we did, right? And now, of course, Amazon's way more than a bookseller, but they were willing to make the change and Barnes & Noble wasn't. And so we see this across businesses. When a change needs to be made, you've got to get everybody around you like ready to go, ready to rock, and then make that big change. Some of the things that I'm frustrated about, my favorite brand, Apple, used to make these like drastic, huge changes. And if you're riding the Apple train, like if you were working at Apple, you had to just be used to, we're going to do revolutionary things that are super amazing. They're not changing nearly as much. And you can kind of see it in their market share when people don't feel like you're being innovative and making those changes. So you've got to be thinking about, is change necessary? When is change necessary? And how do we move people through change? My first seminar I ever spoke at, I was a trainer for a mortgage company and went to Canada for their sales retreat. And I remember it was 1999 and everybody was afraid of Y2K. And so as the training team, what we did is we put together this seminar on how to handle change because all these people would be, in need of making changes because the internet was, obviously pretty big and growing from there. We didn't know what was going to happen on Y2K when all the computers shut down. So we did this whole seminar on like, how do you get ready to make huge changes and how do you stay ahead of the curve? And I'll never forget how people took that seminar. They're like, I don't really like change. And we had to help them get over it. So a couple things. Number one, know that if you love change, you might be the only one on your team who really does. And you've got to pay attention to those people who might not be ready to do those big things because you might need to spend a lot more time, not just saying this is how we're going to change, but this is why we're going to change and sitting down and do that. Spend time focused on the people that are not really on board with change or struggle with it and coach them along and help them understand why change is necessary. The second thing I would tell you is don't change for change's sake. Where people can get really burnt out is if you keep changing rapidly and they're not really seeing the results or the benefits of the change that you've already done. So people a lot of times are only willing to change so many times before they see something, that tells them why we did it, and then they'll be ready to make another change. So fully build those things, get everybody on board, get everybody to see the value before you quickly move into another thing. Otherwise, it can cause a lot of pain for people who don't like change to all of a sudden have a bunch of them. Now, I moved a lot. I was in 20 houses by the time I was 20. And I've talked to friends who lived in the same house for 15 years and then they move and it's like a really drastic thing. So always remember other people might not be on the same page as you are, but also remember that it doesn't mean that you stop the change. See, I've seen a lot of companies that are like, we really want to make this move. We really want to make a different, we want to do things differently, but our team just won't go along with it. So we're just not going to do it. Well, you've got to understand when a change needs to happen, and you cannot slow down or stop in order to bring people along with you. You can try, and I encourage you to try, but sometimes there's people that just aren't going to want to make that next leap, and you still have to do what's right by the business. So it's this really interesting balancing act where you're like, we need to go here. I want to coach you to make sure that like we're all ready to go there, but then only a percentage of your people are going to be willing to make that next step. And sometimes that's okay. So don't let the whole train stop because a couple people want to get off. Handle it well, listen to people, coach them along, and help them change with you, because it can be really stressful for people. I mentioned earlier my ADHD, and it really has been a great driver of what we've done here at the company, but it's also been really frustrating for a lot of people. I totally know I can frustrate people because I'm just like, let's do this and now let's do that. And, I squirrel, and the trick is to figure out which squirrel is the one that's going to make us a bunch of money. And years ago, we were launching Coup Plus, and when we did it, it was something that I was like, I really know we should be doing this. I really know this is the right thing. And I actually lost employees who were like, oh gosh, we're just making another change. Who I blame for that, by the way, is myself. Because what I did is exactly what I'm telling you not to do, where I was like, now we're going to do this, now we're going to do that. And what I'm teaching you is what I've learned over the years. You've got to slow it down and make sure you explain the reasons why we're making a different decision, right? And sometimes that can take a while. So when we launched Coup Plus, it was like, now we're going to do all these things. The other thing we had to do is make sure that our clients knew what we were doing. Why are we making a change? What is that change that we're making? Because people see you as a certain thing, right? They're like, oh, you're just this, right? When you make a change, part of that change is changing the brand of the company. Like, this is what we're doing, and getting the world out there to see your brand in a different light. You know who's done this really well is Kia, surprisingly. Kia, when they first came out, I think they were selling them 2 for 1. You buy one Kia, get one free, and it was just not known for quality. And then over time, they still have issues like anybody else does, but over time, they've really shifted the brand to be like, no, we're not just the cheapest car that you buy for your high school student so that when they crash it, you can just get them another one, or it came with another one, but we're actually a legitimate player in the market. So when you make a change, especially if that change changes your brand, you have to remember how people view you, and then you have to bring the world along with you in this change that you're making. We changed the podcast this year. You'll see we're in this brand new podcast setting. We're doing it totally different. And if you ask Natalie, who is in charge of all of these things, she will tell you that I was fairly resistant in my first meeting. I tried not to say anything. I was like, okay, like it was probably hard to pitch this to me of this new idea and way of doing things. If you're being told how things will change, ask a lot of questions. Like the way that I got through the changes, I was like, okay, tell me more. And I trusted. And I'm like, okay, I trust you. You know better than I do. Keep talking. And then you take it all in, and then go, okay, if I trust this person to make the right decision, if I know that they're better than I am at this thing, then if I listen to them, and if I ask a lot of questions, I'll probably get on board, and it's probably going to be better. And I can tell you already, podcast is better. Like, we've done really great things. But again, she walked me through the change in the right way. So if you are teaching up, right? If you're going to somebody, let's say you're going to your boss, or you're going to somebody at your company at an executive level, and you're like, gosh, I don't know, like it's going to be hard to tell them everything's wrong. Well, if you do it in the right way, you slow it down, you go, this is why we're doing it, this is why I can be trusted with this, then you can both up and down the org chart actually affect change within your organization, and it can totally work. So no matter who you are, you've got to start embracing change as a potential for growth, and then you've got to make sure that you're communicating that change effectively and successfully. You've got to listen to people and understand that for a lot of people that can be anxiety inducing. And then you've got to move forward and do the right thing, understanding that it may not be everybody that makes it through to the other side with you, but the other side is where you're supposed to be. And if that's true, it will work. I want to give you one tool where this can be really a lot easier than we make it. When I was in Building Champions coaching in their Master's Coach program, we would do these retreats. And what they had me do on the first ever retreat I went on, and I'll never forget it, is they had us sit down and write a letter of yourself in 3 years. So it was you saying like you're journaling, but it's 3 years from now. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been such a great 3 years. And you start writing it all out, right? This helped me so much understand where I'm going and why I'm going there. And also helped me get through the things I was going through at the time to know that in 3 years, if I do these things that are hard, in 3 years, it's actually going to be the life that I had hoped that it would be. So if you can start to journal out your 3 years from now, one of my friends, Frank Tate, he wrote a book called Time Machines Work. And his book basically looks at, okay, well, if you were to time machine it and go, what will I feel like in 2 years based on the decision I make today? So if I make this decision or this decision, how will I feel 2 years from now? And put yourself in that 2 years from now mindset and be like, okay, well, I'll be way better off having made this decision. One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make in my business career. I sat outside an office. I had to go in and have a very tough conversation. And those thoughts from that book, Time Machines Work, came to me. And I'm like, okay, what will it feel like tomorrow? Tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have breakfast. And it's going to be a great breakfast. And then I'm going to have lunch and I'm going to have really great meetings. And I've got this great thing coming up next week. Think past the change you have to make. Think past the tough thing you have to do so that you can put yourself there and go, okay, whatever I'm going through right now, I will make it through. And when I do, it's going to feel awesome. So that's just a quick tool for you. Think about, okay, next Friday's awesome. Today's not. Today I've got to make these tough decisions. It will help you get through those tough decisions and not back down from them. And it'll also help you make those decisions faster, knowing that the faster you change, the faster you get to the outcome that you were hoping to get to. That's my message for you this week. I did mention that I'm super good at change, but as you noticed in my message, I actually have some work to do still too, as we all do. So think about that. Maybe make some notes, maybe journal this. Like, am I opposed to change? Am I all for change? And if I'm all for change, do I stop and think about how it might be affecting those around me? We'll see you next time.